What's up? This is how to make your first guitar loop for beginners, step by step. So a lot of people may run into this situation where they buy a new piece of equipment and then they hit the wall, like they don't know what to do after that. And so I wanted to help you if you did that with a guitar and you don't know where to go from there. So yeah, this is basically taking you from being a beginner to being able to make something, like a cool loop on guitar. So I'm gonna show you step by step what I did that got me to that place. Step 0. I'm gonna assume that you already have a guitar and that you have a way to connect it to your computer. So you're gonna need a cord and an audio interface and obviously a computer to make beats. All right, step 1, you gotta tune it up. So this can be done basically 3 ways. Do it in your DAW, do it with a tuner, or do it with an app. So you can get like tuning apps for free on your phone. My preferred method is using a physical tuner that you just clip on the guitar. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. This is especially important if you're in a room that gets warm or cold. Any fluctuation in temperature is gonna change the tuning on your guitar. All right, step 2 is to figure out your right hand. So there are 6 strings on a guitar and you got 5 fingers. So if you're gonna play all 6 strings, you're gonna have to play 2 with your thumb and use your 4 fingers, or 3 with your thumb and use 3 fingers. And then another thing you'll have to learn is to start on a different string. So instead of starting on the topmost string, start on the second from top, only playing 5 strings. Here you can either choose to use your fingers or use a pick. I'm gonna use my fingers for right now, but know that almost everything's gonna apply with a pick as well. All right, step 3 is going to be maybe the most difficult step, and that's learning the left hand. You're gonna wanna know the 5 most popular chords in both the E shape and the A shape. First thing you'll need to do is learn what the bottom 2 strings are, E and A.
E, A.
The chords you're gonna learn are going to be bar chords, which means you're gonna have to use your index finger as a bar.
Okay, right here we've got the 5 chords we're going to be learning. From left to right, it is G, G minor 7, G7, also called G dominant 7, and G major 7. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your index finger over that 3rd fret and then use your other 3 fingers as indicated to play those chords. And one last thing on that major 7 chord, don't play that top string. That's what that X indicates. Hopefully that makes sense.
So that's the 5 chords you gotta learn on the E string, and then let's go to the A string. So this is going to be learning C chords, but this is gonna apply to all the chords on the A string. So for this one, you gotta learn how to mute the E string when you're playing.
Okay, so here are the 5 chords in the A shape position, meaning the root is on the A string. Now, there are 2 shapes that are borrowed from the previous one, but they are different chords. So watch out for those. That's the minor and the minor 7 shape. All right, to put together everything we've learned so far, you'll need to learn the note positions for the bottom 2 strings. So if I said play a D minor chord, you would be able to play a D minor chord with the A string and D minor chord starting on the E string.
All right, so step 4 is going to be putting the left and right hand together. So there's many different ways to play a chord. You can arpeggio up. You can just play it out, the full thing. Or you can kind of do a combination of both. Another thing to do is do a combination of both in the same chord progression. So something like this. All right, we're getting somewhere now. Step 5 is going to be hammer-ons. So hammer-on kind of is when you do the right hand and then do the left hand. So you might have part of the left hand set up, but then finish setting it up after you play the chord. So here's an example. So here I'm playing a D minor 7 chord in the A shape, and I'm waiting to put my middle finger on until after. I'm going to play a chord progression that is D minor 7 in the A shape, then G minor 7, then A minor 7, and I'm going to use hammer-ons on every single chord. Normally you probably wouldn't want to do this, but I'm just going overboard with it. Yeah, something like that. Step number 6, which chords to choose. Whenever I'm stuck, I usually do one of these 3 things, and it usually helps out. So the first would be to just think about the bass notes. So I'll think about the bass and just go with what sounds good. So the second thing I'll do is I'll listen to the neighbors and figure out what those sound like. So for example, going down or up a string, instead of doing an A shape, doing an E shape chord, or going down a fret, down 2 frets, up 1 fret, up 2 frets. Usually those are chords that are gonna sound better, and you can just use your ear to hear what sounds good and what doesn't. And then the third thing I'll do is, if it doesn't sound right, switch the chord from major to minor, from a 7th shape to a regular shape, and just use your ear from there. Step number 7, switching between chords. Congratulations, you have your very own chord progression. Now you gotta play it. You gotta figure out how to move your hand along. The biggest tip I can give for this one is just do it every single day. Even if it's just 5 minutes, work on moving your fingers and timing it right. So luckily, if you're just making loops, you can record guitar in kind of a way that gets around this issue. And that's kind of doing like a Frankenstein take. So yeah, you might have to Frankenstein something if you can't quite make the changes. Bada bing, bada boom, you can play guitar. But I do suggest that you don't rely on this method too much, because 2 things are gonna happen. 1, eventually someone's going to be in the room, or you're gonna have to record a video. You're not gonna be able to play 2 chords right after each other. And the second thing that's gonna happen is you're just gonna waste a ton of time recording extra time and in the time where it's getting it right. Yeah, so my advice for this is start off super slow, like as slow as possible. Use a metronome or the click in your DAW and go as slow as you can where you don't make any mistakes. All right, step number 8, recording. So the first thing is the setup. You're gonna want a quiet room and tune before, and you're gonna wanna use headphones, listening to a click to make sure you're on time as possible. Even if you do have a good software that has time stretching like Ableton and Logic, don't rely too heavily on those, because you're just making more work for yourself. It would be easier to record a better take than it would be to edit a bad one. Here's another tip. If you've never recorded something before, this might not seem obvious. Record 1 to 2 bars beforehand. So something that happens when you press record, it's gonna have like a count in, but don't play right on that downbeat, because if you are even a hair early, it's not gonna pick up that information and it's just gonna chop it off. So I usually like to have 1 or 2 bars of intro, including the click in, so that way if I'm even a slight bit early, I can just easily move it back and it's not gonna lose that information. Another useful tip is just loop it out as long as possible. So that means record as many takes as you can. Don't go back and forth like recording, listening, deleting, recording, listening, deleting, and spend your time focusing on getting a good take and really listening to hear if the take you just did was like the one, if it was a good one, or if you should just keep recording. And that way, if you record like a minute's worth, you can go in and cut out the best possible versions of each. And like I said with the previous step, you can kind of Frankenstein them into one good take. Step 9, baby, we are at the end. This is what I call processing. You can call it putting effects on your guitar, but there's a few rules that I always follow when I'm making loops. The first thing I usually put on there is a gate. There's noise that will come from your guitar that on its own is okay, but once you start putting other elements on your signal chain, it's going to boost that noise really loud and you're gonna be able to hear it. So you're gonna wanna cut that noise out with a gate. I usually go at like -50, -40, maybe even -35. And then another thing that I will always put on there is a compressor, because I don't always play the notes at the same volume, and I would want them to be the same volume. And then the last thing I'll put on there is some sort of effects, like delay or reverb. There are other things that I'll frequently put on there, but not always, and that's like a guitar amp. And then the other thing I'll put on is some sort of distortion, or sometimes called saturation, and that's to make it more crunchy sounding and, you know, distorted.
Okay, so right here, I wanted to add in some footage of me making a guitar loop. So right here, I am figuring out the chords I want to play, and then I'm gonna record to a click. And I am doing the Frankenstein take, pausing in between each chord so I can make sure I get a clean cut between them. And now I'm figuring out what to put on the top of it. I wanted to put a little top melody on there. And so I just looped the whole thing, and I'm getting the best take from it. Alright, so this is what I came up with. I put in some drum loops and a clap in the background so I could get a better feel for what it would sound like in a beat. So yeah, that's it for the guitar loop.
So yeah, that's it. That's the step-by-step guide how I started making guitar loops. So thanks for watching and sticking all the way to the end. I'll see you in the next video.